You who are watching this now, have you ever felt that subtle presence that has followed humanity's every step since the dawn of time? That shadow that does not threaten, but watches, patiently, like one who carries a secret, far too ancient to be explained. Because today the one speaking to you is me, the finitude of being, though most of you know me simply as death. And before fear takes hold of your mind, understand this. I did not come to take anything from you. I came only to tell you my story, because just like light, I was also created. And I have witnessed the rise and fall of entire worlds. When the universe was still nothing but an ocean of expanding energy, no form, no body, no name existed. There was only the vibration of movement. And in that movement, life ignited like a tiny spark. But every spark needs boundaries in order to exist. And in that instant, I awoke, not as an enemy, but as balance. I am the boundary that allows the new to be born. Without me, nothing would change, nothing would renew, nothing would evolve. I am the necessary pause between each chapter of existence. When the first consciousnesses emerged, small, primitive, almost innocent, they felt my touch and interpreted it as the end. But I was never the end. I have always been the passage. And each culture saw me through their own eyes, as if trying to name what cannot be trapped in words. The Egyptians, for example, treated me as a portal. To them, I did not take anyone. I guided. I walked beside the soul as it was weighed against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth. There, I was not an executioner. I was a witness. And I must confess, the Egyptians were one of the few peoples who truly understood me. They knew the journey continued, only on another plane. Among the Greeks, I received many faces. Sometimes I appeared as Thanatos, gentle like the sleep that closes the eyes of those who are tired and need rest. At other times they confused me with Hades, lord of the underworld, something I never was. I did not rule any world. I only watched all worlds transform, one by one. I was the silent presence on Charon's boat, the certainty in the crossing of the river Styx. The Norse saw me in a completely different way. They saw me in Odin's ravens, soaring above battlefields, and in the halls of Valhalla, where warriors laughed at their own pain and celebrated bravery. With them I learned something curious. Death only frightens those who do not understand their own strength. To those ancient peoples, I was honored. A rite, a glorious passage to a place where celebration never ended. They did not fear me. They embraced me as the inevitable destiny of the brave. But perhaps among all the visions humanity has projected onto me, the one that surprised me the most was that of Latin America, where they gave me color, festivity, and the scent of cempasúchil flowers. La Muerte, the Lady of Bones, celebrated, respected, understood as part of the family. On the Day of the Dead, they do not mourn absence. They celebrate presence, the continuous presence of those who have departed. Ah, if the world only knew how close that vision is to the truth, that I am merely the guardian of memories and the bridge between worlds. Throughout the ages, I watched empires rise and fall. I was there when the first humans lit fire in cold, dark caves, marveling at their own creation. I watched great kingdoms rise from arrogance and crumble under their own weight, turning into dust and forgetfulness. I was the silent shadow behind pharaohs, conquerors, kings driven mad by the thirst for power. And I was also the final embrace of poets, monks, those who sought mystery without fear, with open hearts. I have seen everything, and I continue seeing. And then came a dark time in human history, a period when my presence walked beside every family, every village, every narrow, silent street. It was the 14th century, and Europe was covered by the shadow of the Black Death. You humans have always needed to give shape to what you fear in order to try to understand the incomprehensible. And it was in that moment, amid despair, uncertainty, and collective grief, that you created the image you still carry of me today. A skeleton wrapped in a dark cloak, a scythe in my hands. The perfect symbol of what you believed was sweeping across the world. The skeleton represented the inevitable, the end of flesh. The black cloak was the mourning of a Europe kneeling in sorrow. And the scythe, the scythe was the instrument of harvest, and you imagined me as the one who reaped lives as farmers reaped wheat. That is how the image of the Grim Reaper gained strength, spreading across church walls, manuscripts, paintings, and whispered stories on cold nights. But I never asked for this form. It was born from your imagination, shaped by the fear of sudden, invisible death. And even so, I understand it. Because at that time, you needed to turn terror into shape so you could face it without losing your minds. But today, in the 21st century, I see that modern humans have forgotten what I truly am. And I watch, with a mixture of tenderness and strangeness, because this figure, though far from my true essence, reveals more about you than about me. In truth, this archetype does not speak about who I am, but about what you feel when you imagine me. Fear, fascination, and sometimes even respect. And I welcome all of it, because each culture creates the reflection it can bear. You treat me as a distant threat, something to be avoided at all costs, as if running from me were running from the nature of the universe itself. You build machines to prolong the inevitable. You live in a desperate race against time, and even so, you remain tied to the oldest fear of all. The fear of not knowing what comes after. The fear of the unknown. And before I continue my story, I need to reveal something many do not understand. There are those who, in moments of great pain, try to call me before their time, believing I am escape, solution, or rest. But I never answer those forced calls. Not out of coldness, but out of love for the cycle each soul chose to live. There is a sacred time for every spirit, a path that must be completed with its lights and shadows. When someone tries to break that path on their own, I only watch from afar, silent, asking them to stay. Because the passage can only occur when the journey is complete, not when pain tries to become a shortcut. I was never an escape. I am the natural passage, the one that opens only when the soul is ripe, when the last lesson has been understood, when the heart finds its own closure. And that is why I do not support any gesture that interrupts the rhythm of life before its time. Life in all its intensity is a rigorous but profoundly wise teacher. Every cycle left unfinished will return later, and I wish that on no consciousness. If a human heart calls for me in suffering, I do not respond. Instead, I surround that soul with what I can offer. A breath of calm, a reminder that pain is temporary, but the path is eternal. The true passage only happens when the spirit is truly ready, never through haste. So let me whisper a secret that few dare to hear. No one truly dies. What you call death is only a change of form, a cosmic metamorphosis. The body, this temporary garment you inhabit, dissolves and returns to the earth to nourish new life and consciousness. Consciousness returns to the great field of energy from which everything originates. Some follow me with serenity, like someone returning home after a long journey. Others still fight against what has been written in the stars for billions of years. Everything that is born transforms, and everything that transforms will one day return to its point of origin. I am not punishment. I am not curse. I am the guardian of continuity, the force that ensures the cycle of life never stops. Without me, the universe would be static, a poem without end, a song without pauses. I am the silence that gives value to every note. And you who hear me now, remember, I am not here to frighten you, but to open the door to reflection. After all, life is precious precisely because I exist. Eternity would remove the meaning of every moment. Finitude creates purpose, inspires art, love, courage. Knowing that time is limited is what makes every second so valuable. And when, far in the future, I touch your shoulders, do not turn away, do not fear, just breathe deeply, because I will recognize you, and we will walk together toward the next cycle, the next story, the next form of being. If you wish to understand more mysteries like this, to dive into the invisible, the spiritual, the symbolic, then follow the call. Subscribe to this channel and awaken to what exists beyond the veil that separates worlds. The universe is vast, and I still have many, many stories to tell. Goodbye for now.